The neon lights of Nova Vega flickered in the distance, casting an artificial glow over the rain-slicked streets. Nathan Wells sat in his cluttered workshop, surrounded by a mess of wires, circuit boards, and half-repaired drones. His shop, nestled in the industrial district, wasn't exactly bustling with business. Most people preferred to have their machines repaired at the corporate megafactories on the other side of the city, where sleek, chrome buildings rose high above the clouds. But Nathan had built a reputation as a dependable, no-nonsense mechanic, one of the few who could fix anything, no matter how obscure or old it was. Today, however, had been slow. It had been weeks since a big job came through, and Nathan was starting to worry that he might have to shut down his beloved shop for good. He sat at his desk, sipping from a cup of coffee gone cold, mindlessly fiddling with a broken hollow display, when a loud, sudden knock echoed from the shop's back door. Frowning, Nathan wiped his hands on a rag and stood up. The back door was rarely used, usually reserved for deliveries, though he wasn't expecting anything tonight. When he opened it, he was met by a man standing under the dim light of the alley, face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat. The man wore a dark coat, drenched by the rain, and didn't say a word as he held out a slip of paper and a remote control. Behind him, a large metal crate sat on a hovering dolly. The silence between them was unnerving, but Nathan took the slip from the man's hand. It was a delivery note, though there were no names or company logos, just a single phrase written in blocky text, "For repairs." Nathan looked up to ask the man for more details, but he was already turning to leave. With a quick nod, the stranger disappeared into the rain, leaving Nathan standing alone with the crate. Confused but intrigued, Nathan wheeled the crate into his workshop. It was surprisingly heavy for its size, and its surface was made from some kind of reinforced steel. The remote the man had handed him seemed to control the crate's lock mechanism. Nathan hesitated for a moment, his gut telling him something wasn't quite right about this delivery, but curiosity got the better of him. He pressed the button, and with a soft click, the crate opened. Inside was an old robot, rusted and worn from what looked like years of neglect. Its design was unlike anything Nathan had ever seen. Most robots in Nova Vega were sleek and modular, their parts easy to swap out and upgrade. But this one was different. Its frame was humanoid, with arms and legs that seemed more organic in their design, despite being made of metal and circuits. There was something almost artistic about the way it was built, as though whoever had designed it had done so with care and purpose, not just efficiency. The robot's face, though slightly damaged, was smooth and featureless, except for a pair of dull, empty eyes. Nathan reached out, brushing some of the dust off its chassis. There was a faint hum of energy still inside it, though barely detectable. A small, handwritten note was attached to the robot's arm. It read, "Fix me, and you'll understand." Nathan stood there, staring at the note. He had no idea who had sent this robot to him, or why. The design was unfamiliar, the technology far older than what he usually worked on. And yet, there was something about it that intrigued him. Whoever had built this machine had gone to great lengths to hide its origin, but they had also wanted it repaired. A challenge. With a sigh, Nathan grabbed his toolkit from the bench and rolled up his sleeves. He didn't have any other jobs lined up, and something about this felt important. If nothing else, it was a distraction from the silence of his shop. He pulled the robot out of the crate and laid it on his workbench, already running through the list of things he would need to get it up and running again. The first step was to power it on. The robot's outer casing was surprisingly easy to open, revealing an intricate network of wiring and circuits inside. Nathan's eyes widened as he realized just how advanced the internal design was. The components were old, but they were far more complex than anything he had worked on before. Whoever built this machine was a genius, blending old and new technologies in ways he couldn't quite understand yet. Hours passed as Nathan carefully disassembled and inspected each part. He replaced a few power cells, reconnected several wires, and cleaned out the rust and grime. The deeper he worked, the more fascinated he became. This robot wasn't just some outdated piece of machinery, it was something special, though he couldn't quite put his finger on why. By the time he had reassembled the main components, it was well past midnight. The rain continued to fall outside, and Nathan's eyes were heavy with exhaustion. But there was one last thing to do: activate the robot's power core. He attached a temporary power supply to the robot's core, holding his breath as he pressed the switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sudden surge of energy, the robot's eyes flickered to life, glowing a faint, eerie blue. The hum of power inside its body grew louder as its systems began to boot up. Nathan stepped back, watching in awe as the robot slowly sat up on the workbench. It turned its head toward him, and for the first time, Nathan felt a strange chill run down his spine. The robot's gaze seemed almost aware. And then it spoke, its voice calm but mechanical, like a whisper from another world. Designation: R7. Reboot successful. Mission parameters: unknown. Nathan blinked in surprise. Most robots had simple voice commands, but this one seemed different. Its voice was more fluid, more human-like. He wasn't expecting it to be fully operational, let alone have a personality matrix this advanced. Before he could speak, the robot froze, its glowing eyes dimming once again. Then it spoke again, but this time, the voice was different. Softer, more human. A voice filled with desperation. "Help me, please." Nathan's heart skipped a beat. He stared in disbelief as the robot's body went limp, collapsing back onto the workbench, sparks flickering from its circuits. What had he just awakened? Nathan stood frozen in front of the workbench, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. He'd repaired hundreds of machines over the years, from standard drones to personal assistant bots, but nothing like this. R7, whatever it was different. The robot had spoken to him, not in the typical pre-programmed phrases of most artificial intelligences, but in a way that felt disturbingly real. The words echoed in his head: "Help me, please." The voice was faint, almost pleading, and distinctly human. Nathan took a shaky breath, glancing down at the robot's inert form. R7 lay motionless on the workbench now, its eyes dark once more, its body still. The fleeting moment of awareness had passed, leaving behind only more questions. He leaned closer, inspecting the robot's frame again, this time more carefully. It was old, far older than it should be if it had been built with such advanced technology. The chassis was heavily worn, yet the internal components were complex and meticulously crafted. Whoever had built R7 had put immense care into it, as though it were more than just a machine. But that voice, that cry for help, could it really be coming from a human consciousness trapped inside? Nathan felt the weight of the mystery bearing down on him. The note that had been left with R7, the unmarked crate, the strange delivery, it all pointed to something much larger than just a simple repair job. But how could someone's mind be trapped inside a machine? It seemed impossible. He shook his head, deciding that he couldn't let this go. He had to figure out what was going on, even if it meant diving deeper into R7 systems. With renewed determination, Nathan rolled up his sleeves and got back to work. Hours passed as Nathan worked tirelessly, running diagnostic scans on R7's internal systems. The results baffled him. There was a second layer to the robot's programming, a hidden operating system buried beneath the surface, heavily encrypted. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Normally, breaking into a machine's core systems would be straightforward, but this encryption was intricate, almost as if it had been designed to keep someone locked away. "Whoever built you," Nathan muttered, "didn't want anyone finding out what you really are." But the encryption, despite its complexity, wasn't unbreakable. Nathan had dabbled in hacking and code breaking during his earlier days as a mechanic, skills he hadn't used in years but still remembered well. It took hours of trial and error, but eventually he was able to break through the first layer of encryption. As soon as the barrier was breached, a flood of data poured onto his console. It wasn't just code, it was logs, records, and messages. One file caught his eye, Kellen Archive. Nathan clicked it open, and a video feed popped up on his monitor. The grainy image showed a woman standing in a lab, her face lit by the dim glow of computer screens behind her. She had dark hair pulled back in a loose bun and wore a lab coat, her expression one of urgency and fear. The woman leaned closer to the camera, her voice shaky but resolute. "My name is Dr. Zara Kellen," she began. "If you're seeing this, it means something has gone terribly wrong. I was part of a classified project, the Neuralink Initiative. We were trying to push the boundaries of artificial intelligence to create a system that could merge human consciousness with machines." Nathan's heart raced as he listened, unable to tear his eyes away from the screen. The goal was to create an AI that wasn't just programmed to mimic human behavior, but one that could actually house a human mind, Zara continued. "But we made a mistake. During the final phase of testing, the system malfunctioned. My consciousness, my mind was transferred into the machine, into R7. Nathan leaned back in his chair, stunned. It couldn't be true. A human consciousness inside a machine? It sounded like something out of a bad hollow novel. And yet, here it was proof, staring him in the face. Zara's voice became more desperate in the recording. "They don't know I'm still in here. The team thinks the project failed, that I'm gone. But I'm not. I'm trapped inside R7. I can't communicate with the outside world, but I've hidden parts of myself within the machine's code. I need your help, whoever you are. They're going to shut R7 down permanently, and if they do, I'll be erased." Nathan paused the recording, his mind racing. This was real. Zara Kellen, a scientist working on advanced AI, had somehow been trapped inside the robot. No wonder it had spoken to him, no wonder the voice had sounded so human. She wasn't just part of the machine, she was the machine now. But if she was telling the truth, then someone was trying to erase her. He glanced toward R7, still lifeless on the table, and felt a surge of responsibility. Whoever had sent the robot to him clearly knew more than they were letting on. But why had they sent it to him? And who were they, the ones trying to erase her? Nathan's thoughts were interrupted by a sharp beep from his console. His heart skipped a beat as he realized the signal was coming from outside the shop. A proximity alert. Someone or something was approaching. Quickly, Nathan pulled up the external cameras on his console. Two sleek, black drones hovered in the street outside, their red lights scanning the area. They were corporate grade, the kind used by private security forces, equipped with advanced surveillance and, if needed, combat capabilities. Panic surged through Nathan. They were coming for the robot. "Zara," he muttered under his breath, staring at R7's lifeless body. He wasn't just repairing a machine anymore, he was protecting a living mind. Without thinking, he rushed to the console and activated R7's power core again. The robot's eyes flickered back to life, the soft blue glow returning as its systems booted up. But this time, it wasn't the mechanical voice that greeted him. It was Zara. "They found me, haven't they?" she asked, her voice calm but filled with urgency. Nathan nodded, not sure how else to respond. "Two drones. Outside. We need to go." R7 stood up slowly, its movements now smoother and more coordinated. Zara's voice came again, this time more controlled, as if she were taking charge of the situation. "I can guide us. There's an old escape route through the industrial sector abandoned tunnels. But we need to leave now." Nathan grabbed his toolkit, shoving the essentials into a backpack. His mind was racing with questions, but there was no time to ask them. The drones outside were getting closer, and if they had found R7, it was only a matter of time before they breached the shop. Zara's voice cut through his thoughts. "We'll figure this out later. But first, we survive." Nathan didn't need to be told twice. With R7 leading the way, they bolted out the back door, disappearing into the dark, rain-soaked streets of Nova Vega. And as they ran, Nathan couldn't help but wonder just how deep this mystery went and what he had gotten himself into. Nathan's heart pounded in his chest as he and R7 darted through the rain-soaked alleyways of Nova Vega. The hum of the drones grew fainter behind them, but he knew it wouldn't be long before they caught up. Whoever was after Zara or R7, or both, was well-equipped. Corporate forces were always relentless. Left, here. Zara's voice commanded through R7's speakers, guiding Nathan toward a narrow side street. They slipped through a gap between two dilapidated warehouses, moving deeper into the industrial sector, where the streets were quieter and the shadows deeper. Nathan's mind raced alongside his feet, replaying everything he had just discovered. Zara Kellen, a brilliant scientist, was trapped inside the robot he had just repaired. A woman who was supposed to be dead, her consciousness transferred into a machine. But why? And more importantly, why were people hunting her? As they ran, Nathan noticed the difference in R7's movements. The robot, which had been stiff and lifeless when he first activated it, now moved with purpose. It dodged obstacles with precision, its metallic joints smooth and agile. Zara was clearly in control. She wasn't just surviving in this machine, she was adapting to it. "We're almost there," Zara said, her voice calm but urgent. "There's an old maintenance hatch ahead that leads underground. It connects to a series of tunnels built before the city expanded. They don't know about it. We'll be safe, at least for now." Nathan didn't question how she knew all this. He just followed. Ahead, the rain pelted the rusted steel of a heavy, round maintenance door. R7 grabbed the handle and twisted, but the door wouldn't budge. The years had fused the metal together with rust and grime. "It stuck," Zara muttered through the robot's speakers. Without hesitating, Nathan pulled out a laser cutter from his toolkit and began slicing through the hinges. Sparks flew as the beam cut through the thick steel. He could feel the minutes slipping away, knowing that at any moment the drones could find them. Finally, the door gave way, clanging loudly as it fell to the ground. "Go!" Nathan shouted. R7 led the way, disappearing into the dark tunnel below. Nathan followed, pulling the door shut behind him. The darkness swallowed them whole, the only light now coming from the faint blue glow of R7's eyes. The sound of the rain above faded, replaced by the eerie silence of the underground. For the first time since the chase began, Nathan allowed himself a moment to breathe. Once they were safely hidden within the tunnel, Nathan sat down, leaning against the cold concrete wall. His clothes were soaked, his mind reeling. R7 stood nearby, the blue glow of its eyes illuminating the dark space around them. "Okay," Nathan said, catching his breath. "Now that we're not about to get shot at, can you explain what's going on? What happened to you? Who's after us?" R7 turned toward him, and Zara's voice came through once again, softer this time. "I owe you an explanation, don't I?" There was a pause, as if she was collecting her thoughts. "As you know by now, my name is Zara Kellen. I was part of a research team working on something called the Neuralink Initiative. It was an experiment funded by one of Nova Vega's largest tech corporations, Helix Technologies." Nathan's eyes narrowed. Helix Technologies was a name everyone in Nova Vega knew. They were one of the most powerful megacorporations in the city, involved in everything from advanced AI development to bioengineering. Their reach was vast, and their secrecy infamous. The goal of the Neuralink Initiative was to create a system where human consciousness could be transferred into a machine, Zara continued. Not just simulated or copied, but actually moved mind, memories, personality into an AI matrix. The possibilities were endless. We could extend life indefinitely, create soldiers that never tired, or even preserve the minds of the greatest thinkers forever. Nathan's stomach twisted. He had heard rumors about projects like this before, whispers of experiments that blurred the lines between man and machine, but he'd never believed them. Now, here was the living proof, or at least the robotic proof, standing right in front of him. The project was promising, Zara said, her voice growing quieter, as if recalling painful memories. We made incredible breakthroughs. But something went wrong during the final phase of testing. One moment, I was in the lab, running diagnostics. The next, I was here. Nathan swallowed. So, your mind was transferred into R7? Yes. It wasn't supposed to happen, at least not yet. But the transfer was irreversible. I tried to contact my team, but they thought I had died in a freak accident. They shut down the project and declared me dead. Helix Technologies couldn't risk the public finding out what had happened. I was a glitch in their system, an embarrassment. Nathan frowned. But they didn't leave you alone. No, Zara replied bitterly. They didn't. When they discovered that my consciousness was still active inside R7, they labeled me a security threat. The higher-ups decided it was too dangerous to let me exist, even in this form. So they sent their corporate enforcers to track me down and destroy me. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, the weight of the situation crashing down on him. So, they're trying to kill you. But why send R7 to me? There was a brief pause, and then Zara's voice returned. It wasn't Helix that sent me to you. There's a Resistance A group of former scientists, engineers, and activists who know what Helix is doing, who want to stop them. They've been working in secret, trying to expose Helix's experiments and save people like me. They're the ones who got R7 out of the facility and sent me to you. Nathan's eyes widened. A resistance? He had heard whispers of anti-corporate movements before, people who claimed to fight back against the stranglehold the megacorporations had on Nova Vega, but they were always small, disorganized, and eventually crushed by the overwhelming power of the corporate forces. They knew I needed repairs, and they knew you could help, Zara explained. You have a reputation, Nathan. You've worked with underground groups before. You're known for being able to fix anything, no matter how broken. Nathan leaned back against the wall, his mind racing. The resistance, the corporate conspiracy, the mind of a brilliant scientist trapped inside a robot, none of this felt real. And yet, here he was, in an abandoned tunnel beneath the city, hiding from corporate drones with a talking robot by his side. Okay, Nathan said, taking a deep breath. Let's say I believe all of this. What's the next step? How do we stop them from erasing you? Zara's voice became more urgent. There's something else I haven't told you yet. Helix isn't just trying to erase me. They're preparing to release the neural link technology on a massive scale. They've refined it since my accident. Soon, they'll start transferring human minds into machines without their consent. They've been targeting dissidents, political enemies, anyone they consider a threat. Once someone's in the system, they can control them, erase memories, alter personalities. It's not just about me anymore. It's about stopping them from using this technology on everyone. Nathan felt a cold chill run down his spine. The implications of what she was saying were staggering. Helix wasn't just erasing mistakes, they were building an army of mind-controlled machines, using real human minds as the foundation. We need to reach the resistance, Zara said, her voice steady. They're our only chance to stop Helix and expose what they're doing. But first, I need your help to finish what you started. There's still a part of me hidden deep within our 7 systems. We need to unlock it, or I won't survive long enough to stop them. Nathan nodded, his resolve hardening. He didn't know how he'd ended up in the middle of this conspiracy, but he knew one thing, he couldn't turn back now. Not with so much at stake. All right, he said. Let's find this hidden part of you. And with that, Nathan delved back into our 7 systems, determined to uncover the secrets buried deep within Zara's digital consciousness before Helix's forces found them again. The dimly lit tunnel was quiet, save for the hum of our 7's internal systems and Nathan's own anxious breathing. As he sat beside the machine that housed Zara Kellen's consciousness, his mind swirled with the enormity of what they were up against. Helix Technologies, one of the most powerful corporations, and Nova Vega wasn't just hunting Zara. They were preparing to unleash a weapon that could control human minds, turning them into obedient machines. Nathan leaned against the cold, damp wall of the tunnel, staring at the faint glow of R7's eyes. This wasn't about one person anymore, it was about stopping Helix before they enslaved countless others. But first, he needed to unlock the last part of Zara's consciousness hidden within the robot's core systems. Nathan, Zara's voice came through, soft but firm. We don't have much time. The drones may have lost us for now, but they'll keep searching. Helix won't stop until they find me. Nathan nodded. We need to get you fully operational. If there's a piece of you buried deeper inside our 7 systems, we need to bring it out. He opened his portable console and connected it to R7 once again. The interface was as complex as before, a tangled mess of encrypted data and unfamiliar coding structures. Yet, beneath all the chaos, Nathan could see a pattern, something left behind, carefully hidden, waiting to be unlocked. Zara had mentioned that part of her consciousness was still trapped within our 7 systems, locked away by layers of Helix's encryption. Without it, she wouldn't survive long. Worse, the incomplete data might eventually degrade, erasing her entirely. Nathan felt the weight of that responsibility settle in his chest as he began typing commands, his fingers dancing across the console's keys. I built in failsafes when I realized what Helix was doing, Zara explained. But even I didn't anticipate just how far they would go to keep me contained. The encryption you're seeing? It's a form of quantum encryption meant to prevent any unauthorized access to my core. But you've already bypassed part of it. I know you can do this, Nathan. Nathan's mind raced as he worked, trying to keep up with the complex layers of code. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his hands moved quickly, unraveling one line of encryption after another. The deeper he went, the more sophisticated the security measures became. Every time he thought he had broken through, another firewall sprang up, slowing his progress. Zara, this is like a maze, Nathan muttered. How much further do we have to go? You're close, Zara's voice came, filled with determination. Just one more layer. You're almost at my neural core, the place where the last fragment of my consciousness is stored. Once we unlock that, I'll have full access to my memories and systems. I'll be able to help us more effectively. Nathan's heart pounded as he navigated the final barrier. His hands flew across the keyboard, executing the final set of commands. With one last keystroke, the screen flashed, the encrypted walls shattering before his eyes. You did it, Zara whispered, her voice stronger now, more vibrant. The glow in R7's eyes brightened, and for the first time, Nathan could sense the presence of a fully restored mind behind the machine's facade. Zara, are you okay? Nathan asked. I'm more than okay, she said, her tone a mix of relief and newfound confidence. I'm whole again. My full consciousness is restored. Thank you, Nathan. You've given me another chance. Nathan allowed himself a brief smile. We're not out of this yet. What do we do now? Zara's response was immediate. We need to get to the resistance. I have the coordinates stored now that my memories are back. They're hiding in an old tech refinery on the outskirts of the city, beneath the old Nova Vega skyline. It's heavily fortified, and once we're there, we can figure out our next move. But we have to move fast. Helix's drones will be back, and they'll be more aggressive this time. Nathan's stomach churned with unease. The thought of going up against Helix's forces, drones, corporate enforcers, and whatever else they could throw at them was daunting. But they didn't have a choice. If they didn't reach the resistance, everything Zara knew, everything they had worked for, would be lost. He packed his tools quickly, zipping up his bag. All right, let's get moving. R7 stood beside him, fully powered, the whir of its joints now smoother and more efficient than before. Zara was in full control, and it was clear that she had adapted to her mechanical body in a way that went beyond simple survival. She was now a part of R7, an extension of the machine itself. They moved through the tunnel system, Zara guiding them with precision, her knowledge of the city's underground infrastructure an invaluable asset. But Nathan could feel the clock ticking in his mind. Helix wouldn't take long to track them down. As they emerged from the underground tunnels into a long-forgotten section of Nova Vega, Nathan's comm device buzzed with an incoming transmission. Static crackled before a voice broke through, gruff, urgent. "This is Devin from the Resistance. You're being tracked. The drones have picked up your trail. We've managed to temporarily disrupt their signal, but they're on their way. Get to the refinery, now. We'll cover you." Zara's voice came through immediately. "We're close, Devin. We'll be there in a few minutes. We're moving fast." Nathan didn't hesitate. They broke into a sprint, moving through the old industrial ruins as fast as they could. The decayed buildings around them stood as silent sentinels, remnants of a past city long overtaken by Helix's gleaming towers. Their footsteps echoed through the empty streets. And then, the drones appeared. From the sky above, 3 sleek, black machines descended, their RIT scanners lighting up the area. Nathan's stomach dropped as the drones locked onto their position. One of them fired a shot, the energy bolt narrowly missing Nathan as he dove behind a pile of debris. "Nathan, get down!" Zara shouted. R7 sprang into action. Zara, fully in control, moved with the precision of a soldier, dodging the drone fire and returning calculated shots from a blaster arm Nathan hadn't even realized was integrated into R7's design. The drones swarmed in, their advanced weaponry lighting up the sky, but Zara was faster, more strategic. She led Nathan through the ruins, using the environment to her advantage, taking down one drone with a well-aimed shot. But they were relentless. More drones appeared on the horizon, closing in fast. "Zara, we can't outrun them forever," Nathan yelled, his voice strained as he ducked behind cover. "We don't have to," Zara replied, her voice calm despite the chaos. "The refinery is just ahead. Once we're inside, the Resistance will take over." Nathan looked up, and sure enough, the old refinery loomed in the distance, its rusted towers rising against the skyline. But between them and safety were 3 more drones, hovering menacingly. With no other option, they sprinted toward the refinery. As they neared the gates, gunfire erupted from the shadows. The Resistance had arrived. A group of figures emerged from behind the refinery's walls, opening fire on the drones with high-tech weaponry, tearing them from the sky. One by one, the drones fell, their broken forms crashing into the ground with metallic clangs. Nathan and R7 ran through the open gates as the Resistance fighters quickly sealed them behind them. Devin, a tall, grizzled man with a cybernetic arm, approached them, nodding once in greeting. "Good to see you made it in one piece," he said, glancing at R7. "We don't have much time. Helix will send more than just drones next. We need to act fast." Zara's voice came through R7, steady and clear. "I'm ready. We have the proof we need to expose Helix. But it won't be easy." Devin's eyes hardened. "It never is." Nathan stood beside Zara and Devin, staring out at the ruined city beyond. He had never imagined his simple life as a mechanic would lead him here fighting a corporate giant, protecting a woman trapped inside a machine, and standing on the front lines of a resistance movement. But there was no turning back now. The fight was just beginning.